Patterson Foundation
strengthens people, organizations, and communities by focusing on issues that address mutual aspirations,
foster wide participation, and encourage learning and sharing.
Welcome to Digital Access Discoveries, a podcast by the Patterson Foundation. I'm your host, Reed Corley, consultant and podcast producer. Join us today as we explore what it means to see digital inclusion not just as access, but as a living ecosystem where infrastructure, policy, and people are deeply interconnected. To help me do that is Kyla Williams Tate, Director of Digital Equity with Cook County Government. As we go through the interview, we reference several resources that will be available in the podcast description in the blog that will be available on the Patterson Foundation website. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Kyla to the podcast. Alrighty, Kyla, thank you so much for joining us today. You are the inaugural Director of Digital Equity for Cook County, and under your leadership, Cook County launched its first ever Digital Equity Action Plan and Digital Equity Map to advance digital equity goals and create a growing and thriving digital equity ecosystem. I told you I would say digital equity a bunch of times. And in January 2025, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance selected Cook County as a visionary digital inclusion trailblazer for the second consecutive year. Because of the work you're doing in Cook County and because of the expertise you share, you were recently a guest on the Digital Access for All's Suncoast Digital Connect webinar, From Digital Inclusion to Digital Ecology, Designing the Next Chapter of Connection. Just start us off a little bit, telling the audience about that webinar and the work you do and how that's impacting the people that you serve in Cook County.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share even more here today. So I think it's super important to identify two things. One, where I sit. So I work for Cook County government, but I sit in the office of President Tony Prepwinkle, which is super important because it says that the highest office in our county has prioritized digital equity as part of her policy priorities. And being in that office and doing this work has just been an incredible journey for me since I've been there since 2022. I think is when it feels like longer, but 2022 is when I joined the team there. So I would say that the work that we do is created, curated, designed to help to advance digital equity across Cook County, but we really are trying to build the ecosystem and help to address impact. So we're doing like individual impact so that folks can fully participate in a digital society. We're doing community level impact so that our institutions and organizations can strengthen their capacity. And then we're doing like systems impact where we're challenging like how this work is funded, how this work shows up in different places, and what we can do with our county power to redirect the course and send us down a more equitable course of digital opportunity. And that is really what the presentation was about, was like discovering the layers of opportunities for communities to adopt a digital equity or digital inclusion, digital growth, digital, whatever you're going to call yourself, framework, to see it as a function of the larger society. And if we think about like how things grow, we can also grow digital opportunity if we think of it in that way.
Absolutely. And we will touch on that throughout this interview. But I want to go back to, you just discussed impact there a little bit in your answer. So tell us some of the impacts, some of the challenges and successes that you've seen from your work that you're doing every day and how that shaped or inspired the presentation that you shared with us on the Digital Access for All webinar series.
Absolutely. So one of the successes that I would like to point out is around storytelling. Like there are people who are part of the ecosystem who don't know that they're part of the ecosystem. And so storytelling helps people to see themselves in this work, helps to address those gap areas, and really does help us to identify other opportunities to bring others into the fold and for them to be tenders of the garden, if you will, for their particular sector. So we have a program called the Digital Equity Impact Small Grants Program, which intentionally merges storytelling with digital inclusion. And we've created over 1,000 pieces of stories in this year's time with that program. And it also was a reflection of what a small investment can do for community around this work. So we consider that to be a pretty good success. I think part of the challenges that we have in this work is that no one comes into the room who has needs or has identified gaps and says, I need more digital inclusion. I need more digital equity. So these like terms, which are more like practitioner terms, need to be pivoted so that folks can actually see themselves in the work and don't see this as like some highfalutin like research project. Like this is true, grassroots community work. And so our challenge is around ensuring that we are presenting the stories and presenting policy that doesn't exclude, whether intentional or unintentional, the actual folks that we're targeting in our outreach and engagement.
Absolutely. So let's dive into the three main concepts that you touched on during your presentation. And it's funny that you just mentioned these terms that we use in the digital equity space. And at the Patterson Foundation, we do believe that words matter, especially when it comes to strengthening impact, creating connections, or change. And as people work in these spaces, these digital access, digital inclusion, digital equity, why is it important to understand what those words mean? And then how does your definition shape the work that you do in this space?
Well, first of all, like words do matter. I know that that's, cliche to say, but they actually do matter. Words help to shape strategy. It helps to shape investment. It helps to shape accountability. When terms are used interchangeably, so I gave the example earlier, like digital inclusion, digital equity, digital growth, like folks are calling themselves all kind of things that are kind of all in this space. And so when you use words interchangeably and they have mixed definitions and we haven't really settled on a common definition for them, impact actually gets diluted because then people feel like, well, I'm helping to erase the digital divide, but that doesn't have anything to do with digital equity, right? So like we have to ensure that we are associating our work and our values around a common sense words, common definitions of words. And then these clear definitions create better shared understanding so that it's not apples and oranges, it really is apples to apples. And as we talk about like data, how we collect data across county lines, across state lines, ensuring that if we're using the same terms instead of interchangeable terms, that when you ask me a question about this, that it actually helps us to tell the story better from like a national scope, from a global scope, really. So in my presentation, I had definitions like digital access, digital inclusion, digital equity, digital ecology, and then also talked about the primary word, the access, just plain access, plain inclusion, plain equity, plain ecology, so that people would be able to hopefully be able to draw a good conclusion around, the message that I was trying to share during that moment.
So that's a great point, because if we're using the same words with different definitions, then the data isn't going to be the same across the board, and communicating gets even more difficult. It's already difficult, so having common definitions is of the utmost important. And I think it's really interesting. During the presentation, you did something that we call at TPF smallify. You made something that seemed big, and you broke it down into smaller pieces that's easy to understand. Like you cited the Chicago Pedaway as a real-world example of microecology. You compared digital inclusion to a three-legged stool, which we do over here at TPF. You compared digital life to a river system that flows, changes, responds, and is shaped by everything around it. And you compared digital ecology to a garden environment where inclusion is the foundation for healthy digital life to grow. So as we discuss all of those examples, how do you go about engaging both internal and external stakeholders using these comparisons to help them understand, connect, and even collaborate? And I imagine that ties back to your storytelling that you mentioned earlier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks got to see themselves in the work for it to matter. We are so, and this is good. This is a good thing. We are so like heads, hearts, and hands deep in a lot of our work. And so if you're a housing person or a justice person, like you're doing that work, and sometimes it's hard to squeeze open a little space for something else to squeak in. What we're saying is that you can't be successful in your work if you are not adding a digital strategy to your work. And adding a digital strategy to your work may help you to be even more efficient and actually help to address these long-standing gaps that we haven't been able to, navigate through for generations. Like some of the things that have, been ills of our society, are generational. They've been happening for decades. And we believe that technology and digital access can help to address some of those things so that we can actually see the impact, so that we can actually see societal, progress. So what I typically have tried to do is like really be friends, because if we're in this ecology together, like I gotta be concerned about your work just like I want you to be concerned about my work. So it's not just me coming in and asking you to do something and include my work in your work. It's me saying, hey, I actually know something about this and can add something to this and can bring a little bit of digital life, conversation to it to help you out as well. So this like interchanging where we see value in each other's work helps us to better co-design and really does help us to move some of these items forward. We've seen some progress in some pretty challenging kind of situations and circumstances in programming when more folks come together and are kind of like one band, one sound. Now, like everybody ain't gonna be, marching on the 1 and the 2. Some folk gonna be, marching on the 3 and the 4, but we all gonna get to 8 eventually, right? And so like, as long as we get to 8 together, we have, beautiful music. So that's what I'm aiming for.
That's beautiful. And what I love about this conversation is about the digital space, but the real human connection is what really drives some of these initiatives forward and what drives change forward, even if we're talking in a digital space. And so I want to talk about some of those successes and challenges now. At TPF, we believe in sharing our cookies as expertise, learning, and knowledge. And you discussed how digital efforts succeed or fail at the human layer. What are one or two well-intentioned digital initiatives you've seen, locally or regionally or nationally struggle, and maybe because there was fear or shame or the trust wasn't built before those initiatives were put out into the world? And what can we learn from those maybe well-intentioned initiatives that did not produce impact?
Yeah. So I would say I want to reference the Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP program. It was a widely popular program. We were able to use ACP to connect many families because we know that affordability is one of the challenges to connectivity. Folks can't afford to connect to the internet. And I would say all the time when I publicly speak that our internet bill in my own house is our second largest bill outside of my mortgage. And that, signifies to me how important connectivity is, not just because of what we do in my home, but we have the means to do it, right? What about the folks that don't have the means? So do they not deserve to be connected to the internet because they can't afford these prices for these internet subscriptions? And so the Affordable Connectivity Program helped to address an issue. But that was really riddled with a lot of privacy concerns and trust concerns because you had to prove that you were in an economic status to even realize that subsidy. And then there was disconnections. You had to go one place to get the confirmation code. You then had to take the confirmation code to one of your providers. Providers were like, we don't know what you're talking about. Like, it was just kind of rough, in the beginning, trying to get it all straightened out. But people were still enrolling. And unfortunately, there was no funding put in place to keep that program going. So convincing someone that something is, helpful, and sometimes, depending upon your economic status, it was free, to convince them to even do it in the first place, then to only have it snatched away because there was no funding to continue it, helps to create these distrustful situations. And me being an agent of government, trying to work with community and others to say, we're trustworthy, we have your best interests in mind, but then we keep giving them things and taking it back, helping to improve their quality of life, and it's going great, and then having to remove it back. So that federal subsidy not being refunded has caused a lot of harm. And I know the Benton Institute has done many studies and has done a lot of articles around what that impact is, and we won't really see it until 3 years from now, right? Like, we've already seen some fallout, but we'll see even more fallout in 3 years because folks weren't able to keep that same level of service, unfortunately, because of how much it really costs to be connected in this United States.
Well, thank you for being honest and transparent about some of those issues. It seems like there's a lot to learn from that experience. And so now let's go to the flip side here. What are some things that you're seeing people do in this space that's worth sharing with our audiences that are they're successful or that you would say did make a great impact on the community?
Yeah, so I'll cite two. The first is our digital impact small grants program. Again, small investments. These grants are either $7,500, $15,000, and then this year we've launched a Horizon grant, $30,000, because we're seeking infrastructure related digital inclusion work and storytelling. So just with a small amount of investment, these organizations have, created their community of practice. They're, co-creating stories. We are reaching local media and other more new media who are carrying these stories forward, which has, I think, been very helpful in reaching others in the ecosystem that we haven't been able to reach. So if you're having a trouble like connecting with your community members and don't have a lot of bandwidth, this kind of grant program has helped us to increase our bandwidth and create capacity in our work in those places and spaces across the county that we aren't able to be in or have great presence in. So that's one program. So we're going to be doing a network. We're actually going to be launching a national model around our digital equity impact grants program. So if you're interested, folks who are watching this or listening, if you're interested in joining that network and want your city, town, municipality to be part of it, check in with me, follow the Cook County website, or follow me on LinkedIn and you'll get that information. The second one, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Crystal Rawls, who's at Cal State Dominicus Hills, as well as my counterpart in Los Angeles County, Rebecca Kauma. They have done something really special where they are centering digital equity and workforce development. Now, one would think they should be like cousins, right? Like they are kind of, part of the same family. But in a lot of places or spaces, the digital equity work is happening in absence of workforce development. And they've done a really good job of partnering, bringing programs together, thinking about like re-entry and workforce development. So again, shout out to Dr. Crystal Rawls and shout out to Rebecca Kauma. They are doing great work together. Please seek them out and study what they are doing if you want to stand up a workforce development and digital equity solution.
And audience, you will be able to find some links to the things that Kyla just mentioned in the description of the podcast and in the blog that will get posted with this podcast. So everyone should go check those things out to learn a little bit more about what other people are doing, even over on the other coast. It'll apply over here as well. So Kyla, we often say at TPF that change happens at the speed of trust, and which can be a human layer that is overlooked in this work. What are some strategies you've seen or even used to build trust and help people navigate digital life? Because at the end of the day, we want those who get devices through device drive to trust that the device works and that it'll help them achieve their aspirations. You even talked about being a government entity. There's maybe a little bit additional trust that you have to earn. So what are some of the strategies you've implemented to gain trust with your constituents?
So, one of the things that we have tried to do was really shifting the frame and focus from deficits to strengths. A lot of times when we talk about digital equity work or digital inclusion work, it's always at the behest of something being wrong. You need a job. You need to be able to do this. You need to be able to do that. Instead of asking them, like, what are they actually in need of? What would they actually like to do with technology or digital services? Or if they don't know, presenting kind of a balanced opportunity of options of things that they very well may not even be aware that could help to improve their quality of life. So shifting the framing from the deficits to like strength based, like what do you want to do and how can we help you do that? And then again, designing for dignity instead of remediation. Like we have to again stop punishing or speaking down on the people who don't understand technology or aren't comfortable with technology or don't trust technology. We have plenty of examples around how technology has not been so kind to the humans. And so when folks are a little careful or a little skeptical about joining a digital environment or utilizing digital tools, we have to design for their dignity and not for like a punishment. So we also got to focus on confidence. In our digital equity action plan, we have 4 cornerstones. One of them is confidence, because if you don't have the confidence to even try, then you won't, right? If you don't have the confidence to understand that engaging in digital skill building and upskilling can help your quality of life, not just for employment, but just general connectivity, information sharing, being part of the digital society. We have to build that confidence before we have people, join into the spaces. And I think that we have to create those safe learning environments. Like, we just can't send people out there to the wolves, right? Like, even with AI, like people are out there, Wile E. Coyote on the AI, not understanding at all, like putting your personal information, asking personal questions, putting people's names in, putting your job in. It's creating an opportunity to learn that can come back and will come back to be harmful, because now you have all of your personal information and some confidential information floating out there in the cyber universe, and there's no way to pull that back because you put it out there. And the other part is like around like literacy. If you look at like all of the learning language models, at the bottom it says it may be wrong, but people take what the AI is saying to them as truth, right? They're like, because they presented it in such a way with such surety that people are like, AI told me this and AI told me that. And I'm like, AI could totally have made that whole thing up. You know what I mean? So like we have to center trust. We have to build relationships. We have to increase our literacy education. We have to ensure that people understand the privacy and the safeguards that are out there around their personal information and how they're using these digital tools. We have to shift the framing from deficits to strengths. Like, this is how we build relationships. This is how we build long-term trust partnerships.
Yeah, thank you for making that great transition to AI, because that will be the next question that I ask, because I feel like used positively, it can help create trust. It can help create confidence, right? Because it is a great cheerleader. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like it's right. But at the same time, it can deceive super easily. Like you said, it says at the bottom, double check your answers. We've seen how great the photo generation and video generation has gotten. So there is, like, we are coming up on a time that's going, how what's real is going to be very, very difficult to know going forward. And so as people, organizations, and communities adopt AI across their digital ecosystems, what are some practical steps that can be taken now to strengthen the environment so that, in return, AI accelerates connection and opportunity instead of taking it from some of these people?
Yes, very good question. So I would say you have to strengthen your digital foundation first, like ensuring that there's reliable connectivity, affordable devices, and that there's some baseline literacy prerequisites. Like you can't do AI literacy if you haven't addressed general literacy and digital literacy. So like all the literacies, and in my presentation, I think I had a slide about the literacies, like they are all necessary to really perform well and to leverage the power of AI in any household, community, society. You gotta invest in human infrastructure, right? Like, so my little voice can't go everywhere. But in your community, you need a voice like mine to say, do not put your social security number in Chat GPT. Don't do that. Like, we need to invest in human infrastructure, those digital navigators. And that's the reason why we're trying to change systems with our public libraries, is because we know that going into a library and asking for some support is a trusted place, it's a safe space, and it helps folks to guide others into being, more digitally literate. It's so important. So again, normalizing literacy across the board, all of them, like literally asking the question, do you know how to use a computer? Yes or no? And if it's no, being able to provide a direction or referral to some place where they can get some skill building, because this is not a idea of the past. We are in AI, and AI is a little bit ahead of us. So like we're playing catch up at this point for sure. Also, if you're designing AI tools, you got to design with communities in mind. It just always has challenged me for folks who create digital tools, how they don't do user testing, and they don't ever ask the question like, what if the people aren't digitally literate to use my tool, especially if you have a revenue profit at the helm of your digital tool creation. Like, don't you want as many people to use your thing? But if people are lacking the digital skills to be able to do that, then is your tool going to be as successful as it can be? So you should include that. Like, it just amazes me how many tools are released and they don't even do like webinars or training manuals or modules. Like it kind of confuses me all the time. And then ethics. Oh my goodness. Ethics, privacy, transparent. ChatGPT, great learning language model, has at the bottom, this might be wrong, please check your answers. But it ain't it's not flashing, it's not bolded, it's not, so if you're, using it and getting excited about an answer it's giving you and you look past that. So I think there should be some legislation around language models or something, that in the middle of you using it or something, a screen pops up that says, oh, and by the way, we could have totally made this up, so check your references or something. Like, I feel like we have to, as advocates of this, figure out how we ensure ethics and privacy and transparency in the use of AI as it continues to evolve.
Absolutely. It's like they did the bare minimum warning down at the very bottom, like in the smallest font that was legally allowed.
Smallest font and grayed out. And right. I'm like, okay, did they even test that in the user community for folks who are low vision? So if you low vision, can you even see that little label at the bottom? I'm like, I have lots of questions. It's like we have work to do, and people are using the tools and at such an alarming rate that it's not that the cart is so far out, the horse is so far out the cart that we can't, stand in and offer some opportunities to usher in these ethical, responsible, transparent conversations. But we got to move a little faster.
Absolutely.
so that we don't lose control and we don't lose our people out here, and that we don't put those folks in harm's way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big topic with AI that will unfortunately continue to have to be addressed as new innovations come out and profit is put over other things as well. So Kyla, as we wrap up here, I just have two easy questions for you, as we want to leave our audience with some practical bite-sized ways to honor this sense of shared stewardship as it comes to attending this evolving ecosystem. First, someone might be listening and think they aren't part of this digital garden, no matter what age they are. But what are some impactful ways that you see digital life being woven into every human need, and how can the audience leverage it to better benefit, as you did with your mother, as you shared in the webinar?
Absolutely. So I would say start with what matters to you. You know, technology really should serve your goals, not goals that people are projecting on you. The internet is a wonderful place. Digital services offer wonderful things that help us to be better, to feel better. They help to, address health issues and bring joy or stability. All of the things that we may need, there's a digital solution for that. So start with what matters to you and then build on that. Seek, information or seek opportunities to participate based off on what matters to you. Build your confidence up, right? And how you do that is you have to practice. You have to seek out those opportunities. Go to a trusted guide like your libraries. Your libraries are standing by waiting for you to come in and ask them a digital question. They are loving this. They want to help you. There's lots of classes, not only in person, but also offered virtually. So you can do those from the comfort of your home or from your phone, in your car, at a park while you're walking your dog. There's plenty of opportunities to learn, and learning doesn't stop or start at any age. You're never too late to be great at digital stuff. So get in there and find a way to help upskill yourself so that you can do all the things that you want to do and improve your quality of life. That's what this is all about.
And then lastly here, or second to lastly, I guess, what's one piece of advice that you would give for those who are working in this space and they're looking to make a meaningful impact?
So I am going to send this out to the folks who are the practitioners in this place. So you got to take care of yourself, right? As an intentional opportunity of leadership. You can't pour from an empty cup. And if you're too busy to notice that your cup has a hole in it, then we have a bigger problem, right? So I would say tend to your mental, your physical, this work is hard, right? It's hard work, it's heart work, which is always hard work. So in the presentation, I think it's on slide 8 maybe, I have a wellness wheel. You need to be well too, practitioners. So look at the wellness wheel and address in 2026 any area that you think you're a little low in, because you being your best you in this space is going to help others be their best too, digitally and otherwise speaking. So to my practitioners, please take good care of yourself, invest in yourself, study to show yourself approved so that you, as the technology is emerging, that you're able to keep up with it, right? We don't want to be out here spreading outdated information to the people that we're responsible for supporting and for serving.
That is a great point, and I love how you frame that. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So make sure your cups are filled, everybody. And then, Kyla, what's some ways that the audience can stay connected with you, learn about things that are upcoming with Cook County? What resources would you like to refer them to?
So they can find me all over the place. They can certainly find out what's happening at Cook County on our Cook County Digital Equity website. We'll make sure that that's available for everyone to click on if you're looking to learn about our programs and projects and what we're doing and what we're up to. I'm all over LinkedIn talking about all types of stuff. So if you're looking to connect with me there, and I do respond, connect with me on LinkedIn. Kyla Williams Tate I think I might be one of the few that's there. So I should pop up at least in the first 3, right? And then certainly one of the things that I'm super passionate about is art. And so I have a collaborative community, which is an art community, virtual art community, where we do art stuff together and just help ourselves to feel better and to usher in a little bit of joy in the work that we do. So we welcome you to join that collaborative community as well. And we'll share that too. I'm involved in a lot of research stuff too, but LinkedIn can help you to get linked into a lot of that.
There we go, everybody. Her link to her LinkedIn will be in the podcast description as well and in the blog. So, Kyla, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the work that you're doing in this space.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share.
Thank you for listening to the Digital Access Discoveries podcast. For more information, please visit thepattersonfoundation.org.